February 10th, 1355. The St. Scholastica riot at Oxford University leaves 93 dead. So suck it, Animal House. Welcome to The Revisionists. I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers.
And our guest tonight is a Denver all-star comic. One of the co-hosts of Comedy Super Jam. Please welcome Miriam Moreno, everyone.
That was audience.
You can also just say something.
Hi, I'm Miriam.
The Revisionist is, of course, recorded in front of a live studio audience.
That's what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. There's eight. We're in the Pepsi Center. There's 18,000 people right now.
Yeah.
Just waiting for us to speak.
Just in hushed silence.
Yeah.
Waiting because they were told this was Jay-Z.
Yeah, if you don't hear them again, it's because they decided they weren't interested and walked out.
They're mainly all trying to leave early to beat the rush, actually.
Yeah. The rush of 7 people who came to this. Yeah.
Listeners, if you're new to the show, what we do is each episode we take a topic from history, and one person presents the official version of events, and another person pulls history out of their ass and makes it up. And the winner gets to become the truth. Previously on The Revisionist. That's not how I usually say that.
Yeah, can we get, Anthony Stewart Head to come in and, VO? Previously on The Revisionists.
Oh, God damn it. I promised I wouldn't do a British accent anymore.
Who did you make this promise to?
Family. We discussed.
Yeah, it was during your young niece's bedside, fight against cancer when you were constantly doing the British accent.
Yeah, that was her.
They were like, Brian, we need to talk about the appropriate and inappropriate time.
Oh, I got that. What do you mean? Chip chop, chippity chop. It also doesn't help that I have no idea what British people say.
Chip chop, chimney chop.
Chimblies. What's going on?
You just have to see Paddington.
Yeah.
To get it.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah!
Not like we had a British person on the last episode. Oh, yeah. 2 things. 1, we had a British person on the last episode, and I think the only thing he said all episode was chip chop, chimmy chop. Which was also a product he was slinging. It was an infomercial. But also, everybody listening, see Paddington on Netflix and Paddington 2 also, because they're both really good. That's my plug, Paddington.
That's your plug for Paddington.
I second that plug. Make that my plug.
Everyone's in How did everyone get roles in Paddington? I didn't. This was a couple days ago. Everyone in Denver comedy was in an Einstein's Bagel commercial.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, how... I missed this. That's like a commercial built for my body type.
You know what? Bagels are too politicized anyway. You don't want to be a part of that. You don't want to be in a bagel commercial.
A little too... Okay.
You'll thank us in 20 years when you're running for office and they won't have the footage.
Exactly. This doesn't come back to haunt you.
Oh, God damn it. One thing I wanted to announce up front is... we are now on Stitcher podcast service, which I thought we were to begin with. But it turns out, nope. Somewhere the reason I chose Squarespace is it did all that work for me, and I didn't have to figure that shit out. And I thought they took care of Stitcher too, but for some time now, the show hasn't been on Stitcher. So if you're listening on another service or on the website and prefer Stitcher, good news, it's there. And maybe if you want to download Stitcher and leave us a review so we can get a nice base there now.
Is this on SoundCloud?
I do want to...
Not SoundCloud. But
I do want to say...
mixtape is.
Yeah.
We also love Squarespace, as it's one of the only 3 companies that advertises on every podcast.
That's true. Love listening to Squarespace shows on my Casper mattress.
We could only love it more if they gave us money.
Yep.
Eating my blue apron.
Exactly. Squarespace, imagine how much better that plug would have been if you paid for it.
Yeah. You had money for a good plot.
But this episode, we are talking about the Pankhurst family. Miriam, you're doing the actual history?
Yes.
And Zach, you're doing the alternate?
I think so.
Oh, no. Okay. Oh, no.
Well, we'll find out.
But
Miriam, whenever you're ready, take it away.
So I looked it up from a link you sent me. The Pankhurst family. They sound pretty cool. Very punk. They're from England. They basically, they're famous for getting or working towards getting the women the right to vote in England.
I have heard that punk is derived from the word pank, as in Pankhurst.
That's what I was thinking. I don't know for sure, though.
Yep. And, of course, panko breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
And the game Plinko on Price is Right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
No.
Punks love Plinko, as everybody knows.
As everyone knows.
That sounds like a shirt a punk would wear, though.
Yeah, Sid Vicious loved Plinko.
Plinko was what he called heroin.
Yeah.
We've been the Sex Pistols. This is intermission. There is Plinko in the lobby.
So I think the British rule should just apply
across the board.
Everyone. I think that's a good idea.
Guys, family meeting.
Family meeting. Yeah. Okay, so they were most famous for forming the Women's Social and Political Union, or WSPA, in 1903. It started with Emmeline Pankhurst and her daughters, Christabel, Sylvia, and the third daughter, Adela.
I can never remember her name.
Adela, yeah, she's her mom didn't care about her either. Yeah, so that's fair.
She's a real Zeppo of the group.
Yeah.
She's that third Bronte sister nobody fucking remembers.
Third Bronte. So Emmeline, like I said, she came from a punk family. They had a background in rebellion. Like her mom would take her to suffragette meetings. What they did. That's just like I studied rebellion. Yeah, that's my minor. Majored in
communications,
as everyone does. Her mom would take her to suffragette meetings in like the late 1800s, and then when she was 20, Emmeline married a barrister, which I don't know what that is.
It's some kind of lawyer.
Okay.
There's solicitors and barristers. One's a defense attorney, one's like a prosecutor, I think. Something like that.
Well, from what I know, a barista. Yeah, Emmeline married a barista. If I'm using my history of Bridget Jones's Diary correctly, a barrister. She like got with a barrister, and he was like a civil rights lawyer. So maybe it is just a lawyer, like a good person lawyer.
Yeah, it was someone like licensed as an advocate, I guess.
It's a Colin Firth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, he was very outspoken for women's suffrage, educational reform, and freedom of speech. They had 5 kids together, and 2 of the boys died, and then they had a 6th kid, and they named that kid after one of their dead sons, which I thought was super.
Seen before on this show.
What?
Yeah.
That's super weird.
One of the kids, the first son who died, was named Francis Henry.
Yeah.
And the second kid was named
Henry
Francis.
Yeah. It's like a real identity crisis.
Yeah, they toured the country as Crisscross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think they were all from Manchester, which I guess at the time was a hotbed of like liberal progressive ideas, but now it's full of chavs. So
don't they just care about Manchester. Soccer or something?
Yeah, soccer and
hooliganism.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then during that time, Emmeline formed the Women's Franchise League, which focused on equal rights for women in like divorce and inheritance, which is like the most privileged thing I've ever heard. Like, I want my equal rights and inheritance. Like, who? Whatever. That disbanded very quickly. And then her husband died, and she became more involved in and directing
Man, she really wish she nailed that inheritance.
Yeah, she didn't get anywhere with that.
Oh, God. I'm sorry.
And then she became
I've already started poisoning him. I got to figure this out quick.
Well, I'll just disband the group.
I work best under pressure, I find.
It didn't work out. She became more involved in directing the suffrage movement, and the slogan of the WSPU was "Deeds, not words." Super intimidating. And then with the help of her 3 daughters, they just became more practiced in like becoming unruly and disobedient, getting arrested. Her daughter Christabel, she was super pissed off, especially because she got a law degree and wasn't able to practice law because she was a woman. But they let her get a degree, so which is crazy.
Which is almost worse.
It's in
a way.
Yeah. And then using her law degree, she fought the law with her law degree.
Yeah, I mean that.
Yeah. That's fair.
I mean, if you do that to people, that's probably how they're going to use that.
They're probably, going to use their resources. And then, let me see. Oh, one of the things they used to do is, like, it was pre-war, World War I times, and they started, like, bombing places and, like, ruining art, like, famous art and stuff, which is, like, if you do that now once, if you bomb somewhere once, your ass is in Guantanamo. Like, you don't get to, like, go to jail for 2 days.
Yeah.
That blew my mind.
Right little bombing you got there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And
what was wrong with the old days where there was no harm in a cheeky bombing or arson every once in a while?
Bombing is a great punk band name.
That is good. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to use that for something. I don't know what, but I'm going to use it for something. I think in their mind, the more radical their movement, the better results they would get. But then when I was reading it, I was like, what is your goal? It looked a little all over the place and kind of annoying. But I guess mainly it was for women to get the vote. I think that's her focus. Like, but I think that was after doing all this shit. She was like, no, that's all we want is the vote. Because that was like one focus. But really, she was all over the place.
And at the time, this was also like women who own property,
yes,
or like women whose husbands own property.
Yeah,
not all women.
All women. Yeah. That's what the other thing.
Not all women.
Hashtag.
Sorry.
Just not all women. I think they saw if the women get the vote, they'll have legislative power and can dismantle from the inside, which is super cool. And then when World War I started, like Emmeline started becoming. Is that her real? Is that?
Yeah, Emmeline, something like that. That's
what a tragedy.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. That name. Okay. So she started becoming more involved in her country, just being more patriotic. And then she started putting aside, the bombings and being super punk and defensive so that she can help men at war. And then she organized a march with 30,000 women.
I think her famous slogan was, the only thing worse than men is Germans.
Oh my God. Did you make that up?
I did not. Yes, maybe.
You son of a bitch.
Really?
That sounds made up.
I don't know. It was so perfectly crafted.
I don't think she was into puns. I don't know. I don't know if she had time for comedy while she was bombing.
I mean, she had that 3 hours in jail to just
think about
5 solid puns.
I do. I appreciate you defining that as comedy, though.
That's a broad. It's a broad spectrum of comedy. Anything is comedy if you just say it is. Honestly.
Oh God, that's a trade secret. Don't let that out.
That's true, though. It is true. Anyway, she organized a march of 30,000 women so employers would hire them while men were away at war. And let me see. Oh, her and her daughter, Christabel. Yeah, Christabel. I'm guessing it's her favorite daughter. They both went around and were part of the white feather movement, which is basically you give a man a white feather when they're dressed in civilian clothes and shame them for not being at war. Like
a white feather, of course, being the most shameful thing a man can have.
But that's like in 1908 or whatever. It's like, hey, you pussy, you don't want to die for your country.
It's like,
here's a white feather.
It's like an early 20th century form of subtweeting.
Yeah, definitely subtweeting.
I also feel like it seems ineffective, because if you give this guy this feather, is he gonna he's gonna shove it in his pocket and be like, all right, bye.
Yeah, like he's not. I mean, I'm assuming it's like not one person going up to one person. She's like rolling with 50 women deep, handing out white feathers.
I think what they needed.
No, not being subtle about it.
I think they needed to do like that. The one Home Alone prank that didn't hurt them at all, where he just
tar
blew
and
all the
but
feathers
it
on them.
It was like, what was it, glue?
Yeah, because it could
or
tar,
honey or something.
Tar would kill you.
Would murder you
after
to death.
a couple hours.
Yeah. Something cool I found. Well, I thought it was cool. Christabel believed it's not cool. It's actually more interesting than cool. Just disclaimer.
Fuck this.
Yeah. Christabel believed STDs would be less transferable if there was equality between men and women, which I really have to sit and read that book. She wrote a book. It's called The Great Scourge and How to End It. It's basically a book about gonorrhea and syphilis is affecting immorals and hurting wives. It's like a whole book about not being a slut, basically.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
Which is, for me, it's offensive because hoe is life, and that's a motto I've lived by.
You kind of get the sense that Emmeline and Christabel were like sort of
we're just
They were white feminists, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. They're definitely like pussy hat feminists. That's what that is. And I have a whole thing about that. Definitely pussy hatters. Sylvia, moving on from the slut shaming. Sylvia is my favorite of Emmeline. Did you say Emmeline's? Emmeline's. M's daughters. Because she traveled around and saw that women were poverty struck and had other obstacles and not just the right to vote. And she was like, hold up, being poor and a woman sucks. So let me tell my mom. And her mom was like, no, not our issue. So she started Elves. Like a competing suffragette group. Aside from not loving the name. I didn't either. They were called East London Federation of Suffragettes, which is like, I think they're throwing around the word like socialist, federation, conservative. It doesn't mean what it means now, which is very confusing to like track down a time when that meant that. Yeah.
I do get the sense that Emmeline and Christabel, outside of like their striving for equal rights for mostly rich women, were relatively conservative in their politics besides that.
Definitely.
Like they're very pro-war, whereas Sylvia was like a pacifist.
Yeah,
and
Sylvia
all that
was a
stuff.
pacifist. The difference between the two groups were men were allowed to join in Sylvia's because she believed there's human suffrage. And she was also a pacifist, so no violence. Something cool about her is she opened up clinics during the war to help women and babies. And then she campaigned for soldiers' wives to have decent allowance while their husbands were at war. And then she later joined and was kicked out of the Communist Party.
Why was she kicked out?
Because she started writing a newspaper, and they were like, oh, just hand it over. We'll write the newspaper. And she was like, no, it's my newspaper. And they were like, well, get out of here.
Do you not understand communism?
Yeah. It's our newspaper. Basically, she didn't understand communism. But she seemed like she was always fighting injustices from, maybe marginalized people. Like she was against the invasion of Italy into Ethiopia. Mm-hmm. And then later she moved to Ethiopia because they were like, oh my God, we love you. Thanks for, being against the invasion. Yeah, will you come invade Ethiopia and live here? So, yeah, she ended up living there the rest of her life.
I read that she was an honorary Ethiopian at her funeral.
Not a citizen of Ethiopia, I don't think, but definitely a honorary.
Yeah, still like
they also
problematic thing to say.
They also described her as a lifelong anti-fascist, but they did not use the term Antifa.
No.
So, Antifa, how do people pronounce that these days?
Antifa. That's good. Let's see. Adela was the third sister, the one that, the weirdo. And she wasn't. I don't know her. Adela was also in WASPs, but was also a pacifist. And she didn't like that they were bombing and, ruining artworks and stuff like that. So she decided to leave. And her mom was like, oh, check it out. I'll buy you this ticket to Australia if you never come back. I think she was just nervous that she'd get mouthy about her mom's tactics and just being against it. Yeah.
They said that she never saw her family again. So it seems like she just sent her with this one-way ticket to Australia, which I call the half measure Rosemary Kennedy.
Yup. That sounds about right.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, and Sylvia and Emmeline, after because Sylvia was against the war.
Yeah.
And so their relationship got really fucked up too, I feel like.
Yeah, they weren't friends or mom and daughter anymore.
Yeah, it seemed like Emmeline
that relationship.
Emmeline was not cool with anybody dissenting from her exact political views.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting that you bring that up, Zach, because yeah, she did not like anyone not agreeing with her. But the thing is with Sylvia is she had good points and she supported Emmeline. Damn it, now I can't say it the other way. Emmy. She supported Emmy, but then she was like, yeah, but this is the only issue. She's a mess. Emmeline's a mess. She's a totalitarian dictatorship thing. And she died before women got the vote, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it was they got the vote, but they were only allowed to vote at a later age than
over
men.
30.
And
over
then
30.
Yeah,
and with meeting
a week,
property qualifications.
Right.
That's right. And then a week after she died, they lowered that to the same age as men, which was 21 at the time.
That's right.
But I don't know if that was the same for meeting property qualifications or...
Yeah, I don't know when they got rid of that, because that was part of universal suffrage too.
Yeah.
The lowering of the age thing happened in 1958, I think, which is pretty late.
Yeah. Whoa, really?
That's when I think she died. Yeah. Maybe it was a little before that.
I mean,
No. That's when Christabel died. 1928.
Oh, okay.
Christabel dies in 1958.
If you think about it, that's super recent.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't...
Also...
Sorry, go ahead.
Christabel was named, and I don't know if this is the same title. I guess this is the same title they give to Dame Judi Dench and all that. But I didn't know. I didn't know the full. I didn't know the full thing was Dame Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh. That doesn't
so I would
fit on a SAG card.
At least Dame Commander, though.
Yeah.
Keep the Commander.
Of Great British Empire. You don't hear that word a lot.
No.
British
I think
Empire.
they're trying to play down the whole empire thing.
Trying to play down colonizing.
Yeah. As much as they can.
They can. But that's all I got on them. And then I think it was Sylvia went to America for a while, and it doesn't say if she or Wikipedia.com doesn't really go into like if she met up with Margaret Sanger, who was also over here doing the suffrage thing. But Margaret Sanger was like totally racist.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them. Of course, a lot of men were too, and much worse.
Yeah,
so.
for sure.
I noted that Adelia, the half Rosemary Kennedy one, she became a communist for a while, but then she denounced it and later was sympathetic to Italy and Nazi Germany.
Yeah, she was communist light.
Yeah. Fortunately, she was in Australia for the whole thing.
Yeah,
so.
you can side with anyone when you're not fucking in it.
Guess what? Yeah. Look 10,000 miles to your right. Look 10,000 miles to your left. There's no one there. It's fucking Australia. Miriam, thank you.
Yeah.
Just a random slam on Australia. Sorry.
Hello, everyone. I'm Giles.
I'm Emily.
And I'm Michelle.
And we're the Beyond the Trope podcast.
Every week, we delve into topics like pop culture, fiction writing, and other nerdy things.
We feature laid-back conversations, bad puns, and in-depth interviews with authors, comic creators, and more.
Find our show at beyondthetrope.com.
Hey there. This is Brian, reminding you that The Revisionist is supported by listeners just like you. You can make a pledge and get rewards like shirts and even the right to vote over at patreon.com/therevisionists.
Yeah, I mean, we already established that the Pankhursts were the predecessors to the punk movement.
Were you
the Pankhursts, yeah.
In fact, her parents, Emmeline's, whose name is actually, I'm just going to say Emmeline. Emmeline's parents.
Emmeline.
I could do whatever I want in this part of the podcast.
Oh, got it. You're being a real Emmeline about it, but sure.
Yeah, this is the Emmeline Pankhurst portion of the show.
Well, her parents were involved in what was called the Anti-Corn League, which history books will tell you was about the regulation of like corn prices by landowners or something. But actually, it's anti-corn with a K because corn wasn't punk. And they had to put an end to that shit.
Corn wasn't punk yet.
Yeah.
Do you think that's where corn got their name?
Wait, is the anti-corn league like real?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
God damn it, really?
Yeah.
Oh, the fucking British. Okay, anyway.
So she marries this Pankhurst guy, who she called in her free time Panky.
In her free time.
Panky? Wait, yeah, free.
And they both got involved in the suffragist movement, and they were known to say every morning, they would wake up and he would say, "What do you want to do today, Lane?" And she'd say, "The same thing I want to do every day, Panky. Try to get women the vote."
That's great.
I legitimately did not see that one coming until it was too late.
Panky.
And obviously their relationship was later adapted into a children's television show,
Yep.
the Muppet Babies.
I knew it was going to be a twist. I didn't know it was going to be that.
So they fought to get women the vote, and they were fighting. They discovered that the real problem with society was the patriarchy. And that's why Francis Henry and Henry Francis were both killed, because no boys allowed in this family.
No boys.
No,
didn't waste any time with the naming either.
Yeah, why bother? Why bother coming up with a new one if you know what's going to happen? Save money on the tombstone, they said. So they discovered, in fact, that the patriarchy was not just something that existed in the hearts of men. It was also the dark hearts. It was also an ancient incorporeal demon that could take the form of any dead man and whispered evil thoughts in their ears at night.
Okay. When you hesitated, I thought, is he going to say butts?
I thought this was the mythical part of the...
Yeah, I'm picturing this kind of a first evil from Buffy the Vampire Slayer kind of deal, if you're familiar with that.
Okay, yeah.
And the patriarchy also had 4 harbingers of its terrible wrath. She called them her 4chans. And
4chans. That's good.
They announced his terrible coming. I keep on saying her because the first evil was mostly played by Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah.
Anyways. So, as time went on, they continued this fight against the patriarchy, and her daughters were brought into the mix. They started, an adoption home / school at one point. And I already used my Hogwarts / X-Men Academy references on a previous episode, so I'm not going to touch that one.
It's not one of the Hogwarts competitor schools?
Yeah.
Like the safety school? What are like the safety schools from the...
Hogwarts?
Yeah. I don't know, whatever. There's the French
Is there?
one. Yeah, I feel like there's like... Because it's the Goblet of Fire tournament. There's like a bunch of
right.
schools.
That's the first time that any...
Those are from different places in Europe. In Britain, I think it's Hogwarts or homeschooled.
That's so
wow,
sassy.
call the cops.
Oh
my god. So offended.
Classic Ravenclaw.
Classic.
Uh-huh.
He's a Hufflepuff. Get real.
But obviously they made strides and they worked to get the suffragette movement, but the daughters, eventually split over political differences, and it seemed like they would never come to terms. But then their father died, and they had to get back together one last time for the funeral. So they grabbed their matching, different colored traveling trunks with their initials on them. And they convened and they convened at the Royal Grand Darjeeling Moonlight Hotel, where these 3 estranged siblings, brought together by the death of their father, had to reconcile their differences to a soundtrack of 60s and 70s alt pop.
That weren't even in existence yet.
I know, they had to write the songs.
They wrote the Kinks songs, all of them.
And everything was weirdly centered in the frame.
Yeah.
Right. It was marked by conversations where both parties stood still and directly face to face.
That's how all conversations happen.
Everything was written in Futura.
Right. There was a lot of straight-faced absurdism in the writing. The tech was weirdly outdated and retro, even though it took place in the modern day at the time. Obviously, Bill Murray was there.
Yep.
Was he Winston Churchill?
Yeah, Bill Murray was as Winston Churchill, who they interrupted his speech at one point. That really happened. They interrupted a Winston Churchill speech.
With Bill Murray in there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And ultimately, their story it was mostly a hilarious, kind of funny story, but near the end, their mother passed too, and it came to a bittersweet ending about the importance of family after years of estrangement. And it's a Wes Anderson movie, directed by Wes Anderson.
The Pankhurst Files.
Yeah, the Pankhurst Files.
Yeah.
God, I would love to write that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna try.
The Pankhurst. I feel like it would be named after the place where it took place, because almost all of his movies are.
Yeah, so
Manchester. The Manchester monologues.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of anything.
Oh.
Yeah, the Manchester Nunnery or something like that. And they eventually reconciled, but it was not caught in the history books, and they continued to live their separate lives, respecting each other a little more. Wow. And that's the true history of the Pankhurst sisters. Would have developed that Wes Anderson bit more, but I'm trying to get a sublease.
Just brutal honesty there at the end. So I'm going to cut that out. So before we get to judgment, again, if you have the time and the Stitcher app, please review the show there and on iTunes because that's mad helpful to us, yo.
Ooh, you're so young.
I know, right? I'm sitting
Brian,
backwards in a chair.
The baseball.
This is the first episode. This is the first episode we recorded since Brian turned 30, and now he's overcompensating.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah, anyone want to do some Molly? Do kids still do Molly?
No, and neither do you, Brian. Please stop.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and talk to us there. You can ask us a question or leave us a comment at revisionistpodcast.com as well. Miriam, you co-host Comedy Super Jam, which is a really, really fun show. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, I host it with my friend Georgia. She's Georgia Ray. She's also a comic in Denver. We just became buds, and I was like, hey, let's run a show together. And then we do.
Oh, yeah.
We put a lot of work into the banner every month, not so much the comedy. No, just kidding. Both are awesome.
And that's when?
Every last Friday of the month at Mutiny Cafe. Mutiny Info Cafe. At 9:30 p.m.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
As for me, I'll be guest hosting Queen City Companion, also at Mutiny Information Cafe, March 1st at 8 p.m., which is an all-fall storytelling show hosted typically by friend of the show, Christy Buckley, who she has a really big gig that night. So yay for her also. And also, I'll be up in Fort Collins at the Colorado Room March 8th, so come check that out. Sorry, Zach, I'm going to edit this part out. Did you want to mention anything? Stage of Fools is still a ways away.
Oh, I was just going to mention that the Colorado Room is the name of the haunted ballroom in The Shining.
Well, I'm leaving that in now.
Yeah.
So the time has come for judgment, and both stories very, very well told. I was leaning towards the alternate, mainly because the sheer amount of work that went into the puns. But then Darjeeling Limited came up, and that's honestly my least favorite Wes Anderson
Oh my
movie.
god, me too. I hate that movie.
Hey, it was an amalgamation of all of his films.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Oh god, so I'm honestly torn. I think I am going to go with the alternate on the puns and the fact that we all admitted that is not his best movie. So, but listeners, if you pledge on Patreon, you have the right to vote. So you can do that now. So tell me I'm wrong, everyone.
You're wrong. I can tell you that right now.
Miriam, I'm sorry. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Oh, one other thing.
Yeah.
I always heard on other podcasts people like say friend of the show, just like you said about
Yeah.
Christy Buckley.
I picked it up mainly through osmosis. From
Yeah,
them.
no, I really like that.
I know. It's a more elegant way to say you've heard them before.
Yeah. Friend of the show. So now I'm officially a friend of the show.
Yes, exactly. Here is your certificate. It says no new cavities, but I crossed it out to say friend of the show.
That's fine. So next time you see me in person, I would like to be addressed as such.
Friend of the show.
Friend
of
of the
course,
show,
Dame
Miriam Moreno,
Commander,
hello.
friend of the show.
I mean, my personal
Commander,
rule is
I
the
like that
first
better.
time you're an acquaintance of the show, and then round 2, you get upgraded to friend. Round 3, common law married.
You don't want to know what round 4 is.
Showrunner, Miriam.
Yes, showrunner.
Just kidding. Sponsor.
Yeah. You're Blue Apron now.
I'm Blue Apron.
You just show up here with food once a month. Blue Apron, give us money.
Seriously.
Also,
Zach.
it says a lot about me that my strata of relationship goes acquaintance, friend, common law, marriage.
Yeah, you start slow, but then you move fast, basically.
Zach, you slut.
Yeah, I have a book for you to read.
Yeah, I have a book. It's called
Yeah,
This Great Scrouge.
my autobiography will be called Common Law Slut.
like that.
Yes. For everyone here at the Revisionist, I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers, the common law slut.
Can't say that enough.
Yeah.
Have a good time.